Welcome to the Predictive Playbook. I am your host, John Ryan, and I'm pleased to have one of my good buddies and very, very intelligent NCAA basketball handicapper and Kyle Hunter of HunterSportsPicks.com. On the show today, we're going to break down the South and the Midwest regions on this show, and then right after this show concludes, we're going to fire up again to do the East and the West regionals. That way we have two different shows for people to use, and we hope you enjoy it. So Kyle, welcome to the show, and how's everything going? It's a crazy week.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, John. I love this week. March Madness, I'm a sports fan in general, John, but this is my favorite week of the year. I love the NCAA tournament. It's just tremendous, always a lot of fun. Should be a lot of great action this week, and it's also a great time to be a sports bettor.
Oh, it is. It is. I say it's humbly because I know the betting guys are fickle, but I'm going for my sixth consecutive profitable NCAA tournament.
Nice.
I say that with all due humbleness because I know at any given year it can be not so good, but it's still incredible. And I'm seeing opportunities now with several things. I wanted to mention my St. Patrick's Day shirt here. It's supposed to be green, chase the dream, not the fame. With wearing that shirt, I probably shouldn't even recognize myself with those track records in the NCAA tournament. So I'm not really walking the talk too well here right now. But anyway, I did a little study, Kyle, with my machine learning apps, and I try not to use that word too much because most people use it just to be impressive. But I scraped 538 data. And they have their percentages of teams advancing each round, and then I compared it to some probability analysis from another model that I run. So the difference then gave me, I think it's going to give me an edge in filling out the bracket. So as we go through this, when appropriate, I'll mention some of the teams that are coming up on the radar. And when I say sentiment, it's going through 2,200 tweets with hashtags. So the hashtag of the official hashtag of the team is located, and then the stop words are duly noted by the program, and then it comes up with a nice little pie chart of positive, negative, and neutral readings. And based on those and those ratios, that's how we come up with this little intelligence system. So in the first bracket here, we're going to start with the South region, which is where good old Baylor's hiding out. And as we said pre-show, with all due respect to Hartford, if I had a kid that was playing on Hartford's team, I would be prouder than you can believe. But against Baylor, I think Baylor will advance. And after all, there's only been one team to ever be a 16 seed and win. But this next game, Kyle, I think you'll probably have some info on is the North Carolina-Wisconsin matchup, an 8-9. And 8-9s are always tough for us guys, and it's tough for anybody. I think they're 75 and 72 straight up. The 9 seed is since 1985. So do you see any edges here in this matchup?
Well, both of us are Big Ten guys, so in general, I like to root for the Big Ten. I will say I don't think this is a great matchup for Wisconsin. Micah Potter, their big man, is kind of a soft big man, in my opinion, not really a guy that's great on the defensive boards. You don't want to have issues on the defensive boards if you're going against North Carolina. Year after year, we see them attack the offensive glass as hard as anybody. As far as the number here, we see -1.5 on North Carolina. John, right now I see 57% of the bets on Wisconsin and 59% of the money on North Carolina. I'll try to say this on the games that we talk about here because I feel like this is information that viewers would want to hear about. That this is there's a lot of bets in March Madness. So if you're one of those people who like to track how many bets and what the money is on, this is a good time of the year to do it. I think that Wisconsin, to me, is a team with a bit of a limited upside. They try to slow the game down a little bit. I think Gard is a pretty good coach. Maybe not, the Bo Ryan type of coach, not that good, but they don't have that much firepower on offense. They kind of need to slow the game down. I think North Carolina athletically is quite a bit better than Wisconsin. Now, North Carolina didn't play very well in the early part of the season, but they have been peaking at the right time here at the end of the season. If I had to bet on this game, John, I would bet North Carolina. I haven't bet this game yet. I'm not sure that I will, but I'd lay the 1.5 if I was betting this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on this game too. And one thing I'll mention too for the listeners, and I haven't completed this yet, but one of my tools actually came up with the combination of seniors that were starters the previous year. So if you have a team that is an underdog that gets to the free throw line more than its opponent and has 3 or more seniors, that has produced incredible results. And I'm a firm believer that, to get to the tournament here, those monster upsets, like in the 12-5 that we always talk about every year, they occur because the underdog got to the free throw line and they're good free throw shooting teams. And, for whatever that's worth, I'm going to try to complete that list of seniors using sportsreference.com and see what we come up with. But even returning starters like St. Bonaventure that we'll get to in a little bit, they have all 5 returning and they're all juniors. They'll be all back next year. So that's one of the teams that qualifies, and they're an excellent free throw shooting team. But to get back on target here in the South region, I definitely think North Carolina advances. Now, I realize we don't have a line out for the game yet with North Carolina playing Baylor. But if I was Baylor, I would not want to play North Carolina second game with North Carolina playing probably their best basketball of the year. So that's a scary matchup for them, I think.
Yeah, it could be a bit of a tricky matchup, especially since Baylor's defense, since they came back from that COVID pause, has just fallen off a cliff. Baylor is still excellent offensively. If Baylor and North Carolina get together in that second game, I would wonder about taking an over in that game. I think Baylor can shoot very well. Both teams would get a lot of offensive rebounds. So that would be my thought if those two match up, is to lean to the over.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was just trying to see on Eric Haslam's website, which is haslammetrics.com. So a big shout out to him. It's a really tremendous site, and you and I both use it. So Baylor and North Carolina. Take me 1 second here to see what that would possibly be.
Yeah, and I'll look at my numbers here as you're looking at that too, John.
All right, so 8 points.
I think 8 might be a little bit too high given their recent how they've been playing. I think 6 or 6.5 is probably more like what that line would be.
And it's contrarian, but when you just said that, the fact that the line would be lower than 8 would make me like North Carolina even more, because the market is telling me that North Carolina is at least 2 points the equivalent to Baylor than what I just read off of the Haslam site. So that would be bullish North Carolina for sure. So in the next part of the region here, get my little map up, we have Villanova and Winthrop, and of course Gillespie's out for Villanova. It's a shame. It really is. But it seems like the world now is on Winthrop. The talking heads on TV are on Winthrop. I think Villanova is at least a lean here. They have one of the best coaches in the nation, and I think Jay Wright will find a way. I mean, he has a bench filled with 4-star recruits or almost 4-star recruits, and I think somebody on Villanova is going to step up and fill that void left by Gillespie. So I certainly wouldn't take Winthrop here just because Villanova was stumbling.
Yeah, it always depends on the line. There's always it depends on the number. If Winthrop was plus 10 or something like that, I'd be interested in Winthrop. But you're giving it at 6 or 6.5 here. I think this is a discounted price on Villanova. So, initially, if the bracket had come out with me wondering what the number would be, I could see how somebody would think maybe Winthrop would have a chance to cover the spread. At the same time, the fact that everybody on TV is talking about Winthrop should beat Villanova, I mean, doesn't that help a coach like Jay Wright? I mean, Jay Wright's such a good coach, and he can tell all those guys, look, they don't even think we can beat Winthrop. Let's go prove them wrong. So I think that the fact that everybody is talking about Winthrop getting the second game probably helps Villanova in this game.
Yeah, it's disappointing that Winthrop is 3-12 against the spread after three straight wins of double digits over the last 20 seasons. And Villanova is 22-9 after three straight games, forcing opponent to commit 14 or fewer turnovers in the last three seasons. So that's two little angles there to support Villanova. Now moving further down here, some of these games we can probably skip over. I have absolutely nothing to say about Purdue, North Texas, and it's not out of disrespect. Just really haven't had a chance to look at it yet. And we have Texas Tech, Utah State. And that's an interesting one, too. Do you have anything to mention on that one?
Yeah, let me see what the current number is here. I know this one moved down a bit here on the total. I leaned to the under in this game. I see a 131.5 or 132. And I also kind of like Texas Tech -4 in this game. I like Utah State a lot as a team. John, you and I have talked about them before. Yep. I think Craig Smith's a really good coach, and I'm very happy they got in. I think they deserved it. At the same time, Chris Beard's a tremendous coach. Texas Tech played in such a good league. They've been playing much better competition than has Utah State for the season. So, at only -4 with the price coming down from 5, strong lean here to Texas Tech.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think they take care of business here. Moving further down the ladder here, the bracket, one that I think is a real sleeper is Arkansas. And that's only been because of the research I've done the last couple of days. But I think as a 3 seed, they may have what it takes to overcome an Ohio State #1, and then also knock Baylor out. And there's been a lot of talk about Colgate and their offense, and here again, Colgate's a great team. It's like Lehigh, very qualified teams, very fundamentally sound. But they're taking not just one step up in competition; they're taking like 5. And the depth that Arkansas has, arguably, and again, with all due respect to the conference that Colgate is in, you could take the 5 bench players on Arkansas, and they might just win the conference. And that's the gap I see between the two teams. So I think Arkansas, rolls in that game, and then if it is Texas Tech, that's a pretty tough matchup. In the second round already. But I think if they get through that game, the only one left then would be Ohio State. So I think they're kind of a dark horse here for like a futures bet, an Elite 8 type of futures bet.
Yeah, that makes some sense, John. I have to say, when I look at the numbers here, one thing that really stands out to me is Colgate has taken 88% of the money so far. That's always really surprising when you see a 14 seed taking all the money. And look, I actually like Colgate. I don't have anything against them. I like these smaller teams that are quality teams. Jordan Burns, a really good player for them. I followed Colgate a decent amount. I have to say, though, look at their schedule. They played 5 teams all season. They played 5 teams, all from the Patriot League. And look, let's just be honest. The Patriot League is not very good, like you said. And they played 5 teams the entire season. So their stats are certainly skewed. That doesn't mean that they couldn't make a decent amount of shots here. And I understand the line moved toward the over. I will say, once it gets up to 162, 161.5, where it's been, I can't take overs at that number in the NCAA tournament. You're playing in a neutral venue. They're playing against an Arkansas team that actually is pretty good on defense. It just really stands out to me that Arkansas is down to -8.5 here. The other thing that, if you think about it, 161.5 a total and a spread of 8.5, that's not equal to a spread of 8.5 with a total of 125. There's going to be a lot more possessions in the game. It's easier to get that margin. The only way I could bet this one was lay the points with Arkansas.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And it's going to be an excellent game to do live betting potentially because of that high total and the expected pace of play. And you're right. Of all the games we've talked about so far, this one has the biggest chance of seeing 10-point runs by both teams. More likely to be Arkansas, but I wouldn't rule it out with Colgate either. Let's see here. Now we go down to we have Ohio State, Florida, Virginia Tech first. I can't bet this game because I can't. I don't know which version of Florida we're going to get. They were incredible about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, then stumbled and really are kind of limping into this thing with a 14-9 record now. And I think they were ranked as high as 4 or 5 earlier in the season. So I'm a pass on this one. Do you have anything?
Well, I couldn't bet Florida here. They've been falling apart at the end of the season. If you look at a graph on how they've played throughout the course of the season, like you said, it looks pretty good for a decent amount of the season. Then it just drops like crazy. And John, you and I have talked about it before. It feels like trying to catch a falling knife if you're trying to catch Florida and assume that they'll play a good game. I have to pass or bet Virginia Tech on this one. I'm not sure if I'll bet Virginia Tech, but I definitely won't bet Florida.
Okay. And the last one in the South bracket is number 2 seed Ohio State against Oral Roberts, the 15 seed. There's only been 15 seeds to upset a 2 seed. So I actually think in this tournament you're safe putting the 1s and the 2s through right away because I just don't. I don't see it, and you don't have that senior leadership, and you don't have the free throw shooting with the underdogs that are. That's the common denominator for these major upsets. So if you have nothing on that, Kyle, we'll skip down to the Midwest.
Well, everybody knows I'm a Buckeyes fan, so I won't say too much. Obviously, I'm rooting for Ohio State. I will say I don't think Ohio State will go that far in this tournament. I feel like they're not good enough defensively to make a long run. And I will say I think they were pretty fortunate to win as many games as they did in the Big Ten tournament. They kind of collapsed at the end of some of their games. I think Holtman's a really good coach, and that helps them, and they have a bright future. In this game specifically, I would think there'd be quite a few points because Ohio State is very efficient on offense. Oral Roberts really bad defensively, even against Summit League teams. So I would think points quite a bit there in that one.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. So then we have the Midwest. Drexel. Drexel is part of the Big Five conference in Philadelphia that is just by name only. It doesn't exist, but it consists of Villanova, St. Joe's, LaSalle, Drexel, and I think that's all 5 of them, right? Yeah. And they play some of the games at a place called the Palestra, and it's a very quaint, great experience. So if you're ever in Philly during college basketball season, once we get past this COVID stuff, that I would put it on your bucket list, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But Drexel's a nice team this year, but again, 4 or 5 steps up in competition against the team that I think I've already bet them to win it. I may add Arkansas to that list, and I may add another one in Iowa, which we'll talk on the next show, because everybody says Iowa's this, Iowa's soft, Iowa's, it doesn't deserve to be number 2 seed when they're probably the most efficient ball handling team in the nation by a lot. They're averaging more than 2 assists per turnover. But we'll get to that one here in the next show. But Drexel, Illinois, Illinois rolls, and then our beloved team with I think her name is Sister Sue, right? The nun from Loyola?
Sister Jean.
Yeah, Sister Jean.
What's she, 100?
I saw that 100?
On 101 years old or something?
I think.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. She's pretty awesome, I have to say. Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, she had asked the school permission to travel to the game. She'll be there. And she was hysterical. As a nun, she was saying that she does a lot of praying for the team and praying for the other team, but really not nearly as much do I pray for the opponent than I do for our team. It was just like beyond, like, it just was adorable.
John, I heard one other that was pretty funny here too, and I don't have anything against Kentucky, but she just kind of in passing comment made, when I was looking at my bracket this year and I didn't see Kentucky on there anywhere. It's just Sister Jean just kind of backslapped Kentucky somehow. She has a way with words.
You're right, and it's very funny. It's quite entertaining. She's definitely their number one fan, very passionate. But unfortunately, we bet them at, I think, 50 and 45. Now, obviously, if they advance to the Elite Eight, I think both of us would be hedging that bet. But they have a terrible draw here. Uh, they get probably the hottest team in the ACC right now in Georgia Tech, and then they get Illinois. So it's not looking good for them to get past the second round, and let alone Georgia Tech. And I don't, I really don't have anything on the game, Kyle. But if you do, you can definitely enlighten us.
Well, I have one thing about this, John. I don't want to go too far into this because we'll run out of time. But I was pretty ticked off when I saw Loyola's bracket here. I mean, Loyola is too good to be an 8 seed, and really, to be honest, Georgia Tech's too good to be a 9 seed. How do these two teams get seeded this way? And Clemson's a 7 seed. I mean, I don't know how that happens. That was a big error. I think Loyola's bracket was the worst mistake there by the committee this year. But as far as this game, there have been some rumors on some message boards, and I don't want to say that I know that they're true because they're just rumors about Georgia Tech possibly having a little bit of COVID issues. So it's possible Georgia Tech will have someone missing here. There's been some decent amount of money come in on Loyola here. Right now, 55% of the tickets are on Georgia Tech, but 78% of the money is on Loyola. I believe that's why. If I had to bet a side here, I would bet Loyola, but like you said, just a really tough draw.
Yeah, I'm definitely on Loyola's side for sure. If it's either that or pass, and that takes us down to. I'm going to skip over a couple of these games. We can circle back to them. Well, Oregon State, Tennessee. Everybody's in love with Oregon State now, and making things worse, they're the 12 seed, and that's everybody knows that's the upset seed. But they're going against a Tennessee team that's a lot better than what the sentiment reading has been for them. They came up pretty high on that machine learning stuff I did earlier today. In fact, they had the most negative reading of all the teams in this region. So with that said, it's contrarian. So if you're doing your brackets and your $10 pool, you do want to have contrarian picks that that are, I guess, how do I describe it, Kyle? That are smart, or at least you think they're smart, and they're going to be uncommon to the rest of the competition you're facing. And I think Tennessee could be one of those. Especially if they get past the Sweet 16. But they would have to beat Illinois, so forget that. They win the first two, and then they have Illinois.
Yeah, John, here's the thing about this. I'll disagree with you some here because I do agree that from a sentiment standpoint, I completely agree that you want to be different than the rest of the brackets you're in, especially if it's a large bracket pool. You don't want to match everybody else. You want to have something different because if that team happens to be up there, you could be in first place. So the thing about this one that I don't like is Tennessee's coach, Rick Barnes. He's consistently lost in March. I don't want to put my money on him to win. I think they probably win this first game and maybe even cover the spread. But Barnes is 7-17 ATS in his last 24 in the NCAA tournament, and most of those covers were not close. So I don't trust him to have his team ready to go. I think if they win this first game, I'll probably fade them in the second game.
And I think we're seeing money coming in on Oregon State more so than Tennessee too, I think.
Yeah, I see 54% of the tickets on Oregon State, about 56% of the money. So it's fairly even here. The line is sitting at about 8. I think it probably stays about there.
Yeah, there's some other trends here too working against Barnes. He's 8-21 when playing against a team that has a win percentage between 51 and 60% as the coach of Tennessee. 9-24 in road/neutral games, facing excellent ball handling teams that commit less than 12 turnovers per game after the 15th game of the regular season. And those numbers confirm what you said. I mean, it's just awful. Yeah, so I think, that's what's good about these shows. You think that, Oregon State is massively overvalued by the market, but maybe they're not because
Well,
Tennessee hasn't done
yeah, and
well.
I don't love Oregon State, so this is not one where I'm necessarily, pounding the table saying I think you should bet Oregon State. It's more just of a cautionary note about Tennessee.
Yeah, okay. I got you on that one. So then we move down to, I guess we can skip over Oklahoma State, Liberty if you want, just because of time. And then San Diego State, Syracuse. Once again, Syracuse is the one, the misfit that didn't belong, has a history of being the misfit that got into the tournament. But, Boeheim, when he's the misfit, and I just came up with that, by the way, when he's the team that really is not popular with the public on selections Sunday night, he has a tendency to just like shove it in people's faces and they make it at least through the round of 16. And I think there's some value taking Syracuse here, especially with the coaching. Do you agree with that, Kyle?
John, I've got nothing on this game. I have to pass here. Syracuse, to me, it's surprising they avoided a play-in game. I'm surprised the team that was right on the bubble, how did they not play in one of those first four games? I'm not really sure. But as you said, Syracuse has many times, gotten to this tournament and kind of, given all the critics the middle finger, so to speak. They've been able to just when they're doubted, they play really well. Boeheim's been very good ATS in the NCAA tournament, I believe 18-12 in his last 30. So I'm not anxious to go against San Diego State either. So I'm passing on this game.
And that is correct about Boeheim. And Syracuse, too, under Boeheim, is 33-13 against the number on a neutral court as an underdog of 6 or fewer points.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
Then, let's see. I guess the last one we wanted to talk about was Clemson Rutgers, I think.
Yep.
And, here again, the sentiment is absolutely horrible on Rutgers. It's the first time they're in the tournament in 30 years. They're a mystery team in the Big Ten, and you're a Big Ten guy, but they're a good ball handling team. They have excellent guard play. And if there's another team in the SEC like Florida that I don't trust, it's Clemson. And I think this line is very cheap for Rutgers. And I definitely, for a show pick, I would pick Rutgers as my best bet for this edition of the show.
John, we agree on this one. In fact, I think this is probably my favorite one we've talked about so far, too. I want to fade Clemson. Brad Brownell's teams have not been good away from home. They're obviously away from home. And also, they tend to fall off at the end of the season. They've done that again this year. We just saw them lose to Miami in the first game in the ACC tournament. The ACC not nearly as good as the Big Ten this year. Rutgers did kind of have some struggles at the end of the season, but that was against teams that were far better than Clemson.
Yeah, I agree. Clemson's 5-16 against the number, facing excellent ball handling teams, committing 12 or fewer turnovers in games played over the last 3 seasons. So in the tournaments, you know how I feel about assist to turnover ratio, and it gets magnified on my research when we get into the tournament situations. I think I'm glad that we both agree, and that's a good one for the best bet for this edition of the show. Now we're going to be right back live again in hopefully no more than 5 minutes, and we're going to do the East and the West region with Kyle. So we're going to sign off right here, right now, and we'll be back live in less than 5 minutes. And while we're setting up, make sure you go to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the Predictive Playbook channel, because Periscope is going to be gone on March 31st. So the only way you can get notification then is to be a subscriber to the show, and we would greatly appreciate that. So we'll see you in 5 minutes.